Today, we're doing something pretty incredible. We're going to sift through the scorched fragments of a brilliant poet's work to uncover a lost world, a world that, frankly, someone tried to burn away completely.
So let's just get right to it. The central mystery. You've got Sappho, who was, no exaggeration, a literary superstar in her time. We're talking as famous as Homer. And yet, almost all of her work just vanished. And this wasn't an accident, it wasn't just neglect, it was a deliberate erasure. So the big question has to be, why?
Okay, so to even begin to answer that, we've got to look at the evidence, or really what little is left of it. Think of us as detectives at a historical crime scene, literally sifting through the ashes.
I mean, just try to imagine this. 9 entire volumes of poetry, work that was celebrated all across the ancient world, and it's all reduced to this. Just scorched little pieces of papyrus. They're like whispers of songs that once captivated thousands of people. It's such a profound loss, and, it just screams deliberate destruction. And this right here is the central paradox, the real puzzle of Sappho. Because on one hand, all the historical accounts we have paint her as this huge cultural icon, a lyrical genius. But on the other hand, we see this, almost total destruction and active censorship. So how do you even begin to reconcile those two things?
Well, here's the thing. It's because this was absolutely intentional. Ancient censors went out of their way to silence her. See, her poetry wasn't just, nice little poems about love and beauty. It gave a voice to what the source material calls submerged feminine desires. She was exploring this rich inner world that was a direct challenge to the super rigid, male-dominated social structures of archaic Greece. And that, right there, that made her dangerous. But you know what? The story doesn't just end in ashes. And that brings us to the modern investigation, which is this really remarkable effort to piece this shattered voice back together. So the key evidence we have, it comes from these things called papyri. You can basically think of them as ancient paper. And for centuries, these incredibly fragile scraps just lay hidden. Get this, sometimes they were even used as stuffing for mummy wrappings, which ironically preserved the very words that someone else tried so hard to destroy. Now, this reconstruction process is, it's painstaking. First, scholars have to find all these scattered texts. Then, they have to try and piece them together. It's like a massive jigsaw puzzle, except most of the pieces are missing. And now, we're even using modern tech to help us visualize the world these fragments describe. It's all about bringing this lost history back to life.
So after all that incredible effort, what does it actually reveal? Well, it opens a window into what's been called a submerged landscape, a side of ancient Greece that was very deliberately hidden from all of us.
And what emerges from these tiny fragments, it's not just simple poetry. It's been described as a raw, sophisticated psychological landscape. She wrote with an emotional honesty and a depth that was just revolutionary for its time. She was focused on the intimate, personal world of women in a way no one else was. This table really lays out the central conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got the world inside her poetry, all about erotic freedom, feminine desire, intimate emotion. And then on the other side, you have mainstream patriarchal Greece, which was all about rigid social structures, public duty, and these formal, male-centered epics. Complete opposites. So her work wasn't just floating out there in a vacuum. No, it was actively exposing the friction between these two realities. It was basically a testament to a whole different way of being, a different set of values. And the dominant culture found that so threatening that they felt they had to stamp it out completely. Which brings us to, honestly, the most crucial question of all. Why does any of this matter now, right? Why spend all this time and effort on these ancient burned echoes from the past? Well, it's because bringing Sappho's poetry back to life is so much more than just an academic exercise for historians. It's a powerful act of recovery. It's basically us, today, refusing to let those ancient censors have the final word.
When we listen to these fragments, we're actually doing a few really important things. First, we're confronting the uncomfortable truth about what past societies chose to just erase. We're also exposing these submerged parts of our own collective history. And maybe most critically, we start to understand this long, ongoing struggle over whose stories even get told in the first place.
And all of that leaves us with one final and I think vital question to think about. Sappho's story proves that even the most celebrated voices can be targeted for erasure. So it really forces us to ask ourselves, if a voice that powerful was almost completely silenced, whose stories, whose perspectives, whose worlds are we failing to hear right now, today?